invocation and the pledges. How you want to do the invocation?
Sure. Just bow your heads. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us all here in good health, and we ask that you give us a spirit of thanksgiving, forgiveness, and love amongst each other, and that we conduct a meeting in a spirit of servitude towards the people of our district. Lord, we give you thanks and we give you praise. In your Son's name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I protect that flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, to protect one state under God, one and indivisible.
We have any comments? No comments from the public. Any adjustments? No. Okay, let's look at the consent agenda. Pages 1 through 19. Anybody have anything they want to pull out? Anybody? Hey, Fred. Hey, Fred, we're on the consent agenda. You have anything you want to talk about?
18 and 19. I think.
What page?
No, let me just pull it up. Yeah, at the minute of July 25th, item 15 and 19. I had some questions on. 15 is the perfect use edit. Wanted to add MUD 46 links to the MUD 47 website. Is that typo?
That's a typo.
Oh.
Good catch. I think it should be month 46.
Oh, okay, good. And on 19, I thought that we, when we voted for the establishment of the policy, Tom and I declined, and the other 3 remaining board members approved it, so it wasn't passed unanimously.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't. You're right. It wasn't.
I know that, that's why I'm bringing it up, yeah.
Right. 3, 4, 2 against. You guys abstained or did you just vote no?
We voted no.
No,
We
okay.
voted no.
That's what I thought they did.
So we should strike the last sentence of that.
No, just,
We'll just adjust it.
you just
Okay.
adjusted.
Let's speak.
Voted for, and who voted
Yeah.
against.
Anything else, Fred?
Buckeye.
That's it for me.
So we can have a motion to approve the consent
Motion to
agenda.
approve the consent agenda with the amendments made.
I second.
All in favor, say aye. Okay. Okay, review the district's physical draft 2025-26 operating budget and recommend water rate structure.
All right, we have basically 4 documents that we're going to be referring to in this conversation. The budget memo, which you have a copy of, as well as the draft budget, and then also this colorful map and corresponding spreadsheet for that. So we're going to start with the draft memo itself, or the draft budget itself. We changed the format up this year a little bit to make it a little bit more readable, to kind of follow along. Instead of with the old one, the other one, which we do have copies here, you can refer to, had all the months broken down for all the budget items. we've condensed it to allow us to use notes, because before you kind of have to read this page, and kind of go back and forth to see the notes. So
You have the monthly page right now.
it's still there if you
Still
want.
there.
Yeah, we still printed it out if you want. And then we kind of focused on putting in comments for those items that were plus or minus 10%. So on the front page, you have the revenue coming in, and then the overall administrative expenses coming in. And then probably what we really need to talk about specifically are the bigger items on the purchase services section on the back. That's the tan area. And before we jump into that, because the biggest item that affects that page is the ditch work. And so map that you have there, as you recall, for the last 8 or 9 months, we've been riding through all of the ditches to assess, to identify and collect the assets themselves. The assets being the ditch itself, backslope interceptor pipes, backslope interceptor structure, drop structures within the ditches, storm sewer outfalls, vegetative growth, overgrowth, and then siltation areas and any other issues that we might have encountered with the ditch itself. The results of that are, and there will be a more detailed report coming out that will have pictures. Every one of these dots is an asset, and there's at least 1 to maybe 6, even 4 or 5 pictures of these. We'll probably change the colors because green, as it's noted as a 1 here, I'll get into that in a second, is doesn't mean it's green. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily good. Exactly. So
Does the lower the number mean the higher the priority?
no,
Or the
higher
opposite.
priority, yeah, the opposite.
Okay.
So 0 and so I was going to describe that. So 0 would be currently in gray. We'll move that to green. That's just the identification of the asset itself, but the asset was in good condition. Really no issue there. 1 would be is starting to deteriorate, but really it's a point of interest, but it's not really anything that we'll keep an eye on it, but nothing really immediate. 2 is pipe is starting to decay or disintegrate, but it's not extensive. There's no sinkholes or anything like that. Is it going to become a 3? Absolutely. But it's probably more in that, 5 to 10 year mark. So again, it's a heightened item to look at each year as we go through the maintenance. And then the 3 is we've identified as that's an immediate. That's where a significant portion of the pipe is disintegrated, or there's a manhole or an existing safety issue, things like that. And so if you'll turn to the summary of those items, if you'll turn to this page, the good news I have to report is 46 has actually fared pretty well. We didn't have any storm sewer outfalls that had any significant 3s. There's definitely some 2s there, but nothing immediate for this budget. And then found 1 backslope interceptor that needed immediate addressing. And you can see, comparing yourself to the others, you're much different position than some of the other districts, which is a good story. We do have some vegetative overgrowth. That would be where, these ditches are trapezoidal in nature, generally speaking. And then on the top, we call them the maintenance berms. That's where you would drive to access the ditch. There was trees, whether it's a bird that sat on a fence and deposited seed, and over the years it grew. Those trees grow up and they grow out, start to grow in. And in some cases within the woodlands, there's areas where we can't even drive out of the maintenance berm. So we need to prune and push some of that back. And so that's when I say vegetative overgrowth, that's what that's referring to. And we do have some of that we're going to need to deal with. I really would like to get these ditches opened up so that we can access them, we can drive them, we can get to the problem areas if we need to address it. For instance, if we had a backslope pipe 100 yards down the ditch and we got to bring a dump truck full of material or heavier equipment, we can't even get to it in some cases. So just as an example, worst case. But so the resultant of that whole discussion gets inserted into the tan area in line items 5300.12 and then you had a decrease in storm sewer because we just didn't find it. So that's a good story. The some of that large ditch repairs is due to the interceptor and then also some of that ditch clearing stuff. To do some of this work, not all of it, we can't do some of the heavier stuff. We proposed in the trustee meeting to hire in and designate a crew that would be designated to work on the ditches. With that, there's some equipment that would be needed. That's also in the budget. And to allow that crew to go in and do some of the light clearing, pruning, do some of the desilting of some of the ditches, and that sort of some of the bigger items with bigger pipe, we don't have the equipment to do. And on a day in, day out basis, we use separate contractors to go in and do some of those specific works.
Good question, Eric, on the, you were saying 5300.12, is that the line item that captures the pruning? 53.12?
That and the interceptor pipe. And I do want to point out the difference between an outfall pipe and an interceptor pipe. So an outfall pipe would be a pipe that is coming from the neighborhoods or coming from, so rain falls on the neighborhoods, goes into the gutters, continues underground to the pipe gets bigger and bigger as it collects more water. And then at the end, it gets to a manhole right before the ditch. And then most of the storm sewer pipe is going to be concrete pipe. When it gets to that last manhole, it transitions to CMP, corrugated metal pipe. And that typically is what erodes and disintegrates over time, which, like I said, you have no other storm sewer pipe. An interceptor pipe is, and there's actually.
Eric, do you want to take the questions at the end or during the presentation?
Either way.
Okay. On the vegetation overgrowth, I just wanted to confirm where, was it line item 5300.12? Is that where the vegetation overgrowth item is captured?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. So is, just looking at the actuals from past years, is it correct to say that fiscal year 23-24, that was pretty much, we didn't do any maintenance that year? That's 2,255. So the question is confirmation that that is the case. Fiscal year 23-24, there was no vegetation overgrowth.
Correct. This has not been addressed before.
Okay.
This whole program of addressing the threes and all the things that we've found in the assessment, this is first ever of its kind.
Okay. Do we have a feel for cadence moving forward? Like how frequently we'll be cutting the vegetation through those pathways?
So we're after the initial cut to create it, I mean, it's not gonna grow all the way back every year. So that's what the ongoing maintenance will be of the new crew. Once we get over the hump of getting it cleaned up, then it'll be a lot easier to kind of keep up with it as we go in future years.
Okay, thank you.
You know, so it won't get to the point
Yep.
where it's at.
So, you know, last year you had a contract, we're in the second year of the contract for, I believe, this type of work.
No, that's sanitary sewer.
That's sanitary sewer.
Sanitary sewer.
So you're gonna use the team, you're gonna hire predominantly to do this work,
Not the sanitary sewer.
not the
guy.
sanitation, but,
Yeah, we have a separate contractor that actually works on our ditch work stuff for us.
but this group, you're gonna hire, what, three or so people, get some
Yeah, the
equipment.
budget has 4 guys, a lead certified operator for the equipment and then several field hands. We put 4 in the budget. We might end up with 3 if we can make it work. But we put 4 into the trustee budget. And we'd have the expenditures on the capital side would be the mini excavator, skid steer, a chipper, and then truck and trailer to haul.
This is throughout the muds, this will be a multi-year effort to work through the.
I will admit, and granted, y'all don't have a lot, so it's probably, the answer is different for y'all. I think we could probably tackle yours fairly quickly or throughout the process. But yeah, it's aggressive. I mean, if you compare yourself to some of the others, some of the others have some much more to tackle. And so we're going to just systematically kind of go through all those. It is aggressive. I'm hopeful that we can get it done. But I think it likely will probably take a year and a half to do all of the big 3, all the 3s. And then after that, we'll be able to just systematically just maintain at that point. And then, obviously over the years, 2s will become 3s at some point. They all won't become 3s at one point. So we'll, and one of the things that we'll also be doing going forward is we will be going through the ditches at least once a year, if not twice a year, on a general just observance plan, and immediately after a major event. So if we have a hurricane roll through, then our protocol will be that we'll run through all the ditches to see what the damage is, and then start tackling that work, as we go, as a general maintenance program. Again, that's something that's never been in place before.
The sewage contract,
Yes.
is that in line, 5214, 15, or?
That is in 09. 5300.09. Yes.
That's the other big number.
Yeah, that's that is the project. We're in year 2. They've been operating for about the last 30 to 45 days. That's on your agenda item later, but they've started work. They've completed some work in Mud 6 and 60. So they actually haven't finished any work in 46 yet, but that certainly will be coming. And that was in this year's budget, but because that isn't all complete, it pushes forward to this budget.
And in the ditch maintenance line, 5200.13, that's really the grass cutting, weeding, something like that.
So there's no approval today. We'll approve it next month. Certainly, if there's any questions that come up, please let me know. I did want to mention one of the other bigger items at the top, 50% engineering. We did a rate study the last couple of years, water and sewer rate study a few years ago. I mentioned we would probably do it every 2 to 3 years to keep it fresh. There's money in there to update that. And then also we're required by EPA TCQ to update our emergency response plans. And so there's money in there to update that for all the months spots in this budget.
You mentioned in the narrative about postal rates, and what percentage of the residents want a mail bill? You have that off the top of your head?
A little bit more than half,
About half.
something more than half. Yeah.
And as time goes on, that kind of getting more e-billing
More electronic billing. Yeah.
slowly.
There are prioritization for the 3 projects downstream of the Bear Branch Dam. So that we'll have to take into consideration. So for this project, the level 3 projects, will there be consideration to take care of the 3s that are downstream of Bear Branch Dam?
So none of these would be on the Bear or Panther branches. Because you're responsible, WWA does not handle that for you. SDRA handles the operation maintenance of the Bear and Panther branch drainage areas. So that's already incorporated in their budget.
No questions. Thank you. So we're gonna do water structure next. Item 9.
No, there's no proposed rate changes for
No,
water.
not close to it.
No, we'll be doing that rate analysis update and just see where that falls out.
No question.
So we finished with 9?
Okay, I'm not. Fee Schedule A, how long has that been with no change?
I think there was a change for this current year, might have been the year before.
Okay,
It may change between now and next contract.
okay.
Not for sure.
And I think I know the answer to this, but on Schedule B, they're referring to tracks, not SFDUEs. And I understand it's on a tax basis, that's why it's tracks, correct?
Parcels and value.
Track, parcel, correct, right. What's the impact of 39A, the defined areas on any of this? Okay, but at what point in time will that increase capacity requirement or volume requirements impact all of the lots or any of the lots at this point? Do we know?
It wouldn't, 39 wouldn't impact anyone else. They,
39A would not impact.
they had to buy their own capacity. The developer had to fund that and has.
Well, where I'm going is when we start talking about how we share costs, is the new sharing recommendations including 39A or not including 39A?
So compared to the seventh accounting,
I'm sorry?
right, Ed? Seventh accounting now?
We're not.
Oh, I thought with the 39A, you assess some cost to 39A for their purchase of SFTUs.
Bought in based on the numbers in the sixth and final.
So they've bought in already.
39A is what?
Well, 39 has bought in,
I knew that,
right, but 39A is part of 39. Is part
but
of
there's a
39.
larger,
There's no board for 39A, right? There's just,
but there's geography,
what's that?
right?
Right, there's definite geography. You can kind of see it up here.
Yeah, so over the years, a number of MUDs have bought more capacity, so this would be no different than
Okay.
any of those.
All
MUDs.
right, good, thank you.
The difference is they scratched out the word final with relation to the sixth and final accounting. Now it's the sixth accounting. Now we have a seventh
It's the
account.
extended final,
Yeah, yeah.
got it. And Maureen, great work again, excellent.
Since we didn't have a rate study, in your write-up, you mentioned the months on hand. And
Oh, yeah.
I was looking for the green, the monthly chart, looking for the green bar.
Yep, so I do have those numbers. This budget would produce at the end of this budget, an $8.8 million cash reserve at 10.5 months. At least at the proposed tax rate that's up at the top, which is the next item that we're gonna talk about.
And so we received a brief from the SRA. That's incorporated in
It
the
is,
budget already.
correct.
Have we received it?
Last year,
Oh, that one,
Or-
yes.
earlier this year.
Earlier this year. Right.
Okay.
I did notice, let me see if I can find my note, that when we did the last year's budget, like basically the months on hand is that's driven by the net income, right? How much you have left.
Driven by the reserve at the end of
Yeah.
the budget, that's correct, last year.
So this one has a net income of, last year we approved the budget had 1.4 net income. And this year we have 1.8 million in net income.
At the proposed tax rate, currently. which
At the proposed tax rate.
That's right.
When we did the budget, I guess what we've seen here, not that it's a negative. We went from last year's budget we want to end 2024 to 2025 at 5.5 months. Now we're up to something higher now.
Yeah, that rebate made a huge
Huge
difference.
difference.
Yep. And we kept your expenses pretty low.
Pretty low, yeah.
And
Good job.
the result is we're growing that like we talked about needing to.
Yeah.
So it's a good message. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I can, the hands are always out. Okay, any more comments on 9? Okay. Let's go to item 10. And that'd be our bond guy.
You should, on page 20, you should have a section that starts with the letter on the front end. Just to remind you, the tax rate setting process is a 2-step process. So all you're doing today is authorizing publication of your rate. And then next month you'll hold your public hearing and then you'll adopt and levy the tax rate, breaking it out between maintenance and operations and debt service. Keeping in mind that you want to publish the highest rate you'll consider because you can always come down from that next month. You just can't go up without republishing. So if you look on the letter in assumption number 1, your 2025 net taxable value that's as of January 1 is just over $5 billion. That's a 6.68% increase over last year's $4.7 billion. So pretty good appreciation there. If you flip to the next page, the debt service cash flow, Last year, you needed 15 cents to pay your outstanding principal and interest. And if you look in that middle column, we're referencing 14.45 cents in order to cover your annual obligations. And then, just pointing out that 2030, you're paying off all of your debt, your outstanding debt. Beautiful. If you flip to the next page with the boxes, some pretty informative information here. On the top box with respect to your maintenance tax rate, last year you levied 3.1255 cents. It generated about 1.44 million. This year we're proposing 0.030133, which would generate about 1.48 million. Your parity rate, if you wanted to raise the same number of dollars as last year, 2.93 cents. And currently, you don't even need to levy an M&O rate to balance your budget. Bottom of that top box, the value of 1 penny in your district is almost $500,000, so it's pretty significant. Middle box, with respect to the average tax bills, your homestead value last year, the average homestead was $589,685, meaning the average tax bill $1,069. This year it went up 7.42% to $633,466, meaning at the proposed total rate, the average tax bill would be $1,106 or a $37 increase. The percent change, 3.5%, that's important because of the box below that. Keep in mind as there's 3 designations for what you can be as a district: developing, developed, and low tax rate district. You are a developed district, so you follow more of the school district and county mentality, meaning if you were to cross the threshold of above 3.5% on the average tax bill, then you'd be required to have a rollback election. If that election is successful, then you would roll the M&O rate only back to the rollback rate, which is the bottom box, bottom line, 0.030113. So all that being said, our proposed total rate is 17.4633. And that is down from 18.1255, and that puts you right at the 3.5% for you to consider. And as I mentioned, you can always come down for that if you so choose, but we don't recommend going higher than that.
You mentioned that we could zero out the M&O tax rate and still meet the budget. Is there a recommend? Why not keep it at 0?
I mean, you're still trying to build reserves. I know you have a lot of projects coming up, so it would be to offset those. Obviously it's cheaper to cash finance them than bond finance them. And so the idea being you cash finance as much as possible.
Yeah, when you're subject to a 3.5% rollback rate, and just to expand on what Adam said, we do have an item on the agenda later in the meeting, item 17, resolution regarding the adoption of the resolution for developed district status. Nothing's changing this year. I know there's a lot of conversation last year about developing, developed, or staying developed. So this is built on that, that designation of being a developed district. If you're overly aggressive on reducing your maintenance tax rate, every time you go down, that's your new threshold, that's your new baseline that you can only go at 3.5% on. So in this new environment, we always caution viewers to be, very careful and deliberate about the lowering of that rate when you're subject to 3.5, because if you have something major come up, especially if you don't have much in the way of bond authorization, you're very limited on how you can generate additional revenue.
Yeah, that's helpful context. Nice.
Yeah.
So if you look at the blue side, right, you see we pay off the debt by 2030.
Right.
And when we get to the last year, we're only left with $36,000 to get out of the pot. I mean, so that's been brought down, but so we'll have that relief going forward. We also, in the budget, we have the SRA sewer and water loans, and they finish up about the same time. So we'll have, that's almost $500,000 a year. So you have that coming, but the other side is, Eric is doing a good job of keeping the ditches clean, it will be. So that'll be some increased expense. Plus, if you look at the SRA proposal for the Bear Branch Dam, that's $500,000 that he's going to want. And then we'll have a question whether to pay that out of M&O or pay that with new debt.
And that's not in.
That's not in any of this, right? That's not in any of this. So, those are just some thoughts for the future.
And I've mentioned to other districts, and this will be a more in-depth discussion in a couple of years, but as you get closer to paying off your debt, because you currently need 14 cents, there are ways where, I don't say we circumvent Senate Bill 2, but there are ways that you can manipulate it where we can actually move pennies over to M&O, put it in the operating fund, and just make a transfer to pay for your debt service, because ultimately what you want to do is make sure that you're going to be able to generate enough revenue to pay your expenses. And so that gives you a way to get around the 3.5% rule and prop up your M&O rate on the back end of paying off your debt. So you can decrease your tax rate some, but you can also, over the last 2 years, move some pennies over to your M&O so that you're not stuck at, 3 cents. So it'll be a further discussion in a few years.
Any more questions or discussions?
Here. I was wondering if this is more of an agenda topic. Was there an agenda topic to review the MCAD budget? And is this not part of it? MCAD's
Something on your appraisal
proposed
district?
2026 budget, and I saw somewhere on,
That was last month or the month before.
okay, so that's not, okay. Ignore that. Thanks.
Okay, so any more questions about item 10 before we go to item 11?
Need action on 10 to authorize
Oh, okay.
application of the recommended rate in the Courier as required by law.
Okay, so we have a motion to make that advertisement. Get a second? A second?
To accept the rate. I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So when do you think we'll be to advertise that on email? I mean, not email, but electronically.
The newspaper lobby apparently isn't dead, because I
Yeah.
think that's the main way they get revenue these days.
I think that's probably a true
We
statement.
have some local papers we're talking about with Jeannie confirmed that the Courier still works for the Woodlands, but Chronicle bought up all the community newspapers, and we
Yeah.
had some where they've reduced the circulation area and are forcing districts to explore either whether they can advertise in the Houston Business Journal, or if they can't, the only fallback is the Chronicle. And that's almost 11 grand
I used to get
per publication.
a Wednesday paper from the Courier, but not anymore. Not since the grocery store was kind of closed.
Or we expand our social media into publishing.
I mean, the intent of the rule is that you get to the most people you can.
Right.
So, but in my opinion, I don't think we,
It's our thing.
Like-
Yeah.
but it has to be in a publication.
So I mean, we put it on the website. Yeah, that's it reaches folks and more modern methods, but the legal requirement is to publish in the newspaper general circulation. So
It's
that's what
posted
you
in the county and the appraisal district as well.
I gotta believe it, at some point in the future, legislators will pick.
They're down to the last employee.
Perhaps.
Can you put it on the bill? Monthly bill?
Water bill?
I mean, everybody gets a bill.
If we have over 50
Well, they-
people receiving a paper bill. That's also the case.
The electronic bill, all you get is
I'll look into that.
it's wrong.
timing of having the notice prepared, what's it cost to do a stuffer, what time does the bill
They'll
go
go
out?
out and, yeah,
Y'all can look into that.
yeah.
Not in lieu of.
Correct, not.
That would be in addition.
Yeah, it
That'd
won't
be
be
more
the
cost
notice,
in
right?
addition to paying the paper.
There's not need for the home
Yeah,
notice.
he's talking about doing basically a stuffer. Old enough to know this, putting it in your bill.
Okay, so any more questions for item 10? Let's go to item 11. Receive the SRA Woodlands Division report.
Quick and simple, nothing to add to the information in your packet, but if you have any questions, be happy to answer.
So,
Before we read the tax stuff, I think I do want to circle back around on that. So if I know that Tom mentioned putting a stuffer in there. That usually costs a fair amount of money with postage and not postage. I don't think it costs to make the postage, but the paper and the, labor stuff, whatever. I don't know if we have a ballpark on that, if the rest of the board's okay with it, because I just didn't want to gloss over that and let's move on. If the
Brian's
rest of the board
timing is
didn't
not
want-
good, but they mail their bills on September 1st or later. And we, I'm in that window with no more than 3 days, no less than 3 days, no more than 7 to get it posted. Their meeting is the 17th. And if their bills go out on the 1st, mail takes forever.
Well, they would still get it before the board meeting.
Well, okay.
I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
If the board wants to do it, but it is gonna be an additional expense. That's the only reason I kind of hit the.
And again,
pause.
it's not real, so you could,
Correct.
you're not using
Right.
it to meet the mandate, you're
Right.
using it as an extra, so
As an
even if
extra.
it's late, it's just,
Correct,
it's additional.
correct. Yeah,
Because
the
we
rest of
also-
the board-
I wonder if we could put like a QR code, because it will be on our website. So we potentially could add a QR code to get them back to that information. That's free
Yes.
and still accomplishing the same thing. I mean, I know it's not something you pull out, and if you're not reading your bill, then maybe you don't get it, but I don't know.
But you get the eyeballs.
Just an idea, just,
Mhm.
yeah.
But in order to stop, it takes legislation from Austin.
Correct, but the question now was, Tom had suggested putting it in the bills. It's gonna be an additional cost, so we probably should take a motion if the board wants to do that, or if you want to go a little bit cheaper route and do the QR code. That doesn't cost anything.
So the QR code will be on the website?
It will be all printed, it sounds like printed on the water bill.
Instead of
Print it on
stuff.
water.
I get a mail. Who gets electronic? You get electronic? So does it look like the printed copy?
No, I get a printed bill.
You get a printed, but who gets electronic copy? I get printed.
Yeah,
I don't,
Printed
You
also.
could also do a
Brian,
direct
you can do
email
Direct email.
to the customers as well.
And does the notice, how you envision it, including like, hey, the rates are lower compared to last year?
Something
Right,
like
something
that,
like
just a
that,
note.
just to give them a heads up.
I like the idea of a QR code on the bill.
Do you want to wait until you've actually set the tax rate? Because right now you've just set the publish.
We'll probably just publish, I think we post it now, so people have time to review. Since we don't get the courier anymore.
Is this the proposed, it was like proposed,
Right.
the article, yeah.
do I hear a motion or do you want to think about it and do it next month?
Motion.
You make the motion, Tom?
Yeah, I make a motion that we publish a QR code that has a link to the proposed rate on the water.
There's no
I
downside.
second it.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Have a second?
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that was a preferable on the water bill and not an email. All that I heard.
Yes.
Thank you.
What a good idea. Who made that?
Great idea.
The only, so if you kind of jump forward, back a little bit. So the SJRA had a settlement with the city of Conroe.
I think we did, yeah.
You want to talk about that? I know it's not in the handout. And then the second part of that is how much is in the SRA's, city of Conroe's escrow account from not paying the bills? Can you?
Covering it, so.
Yes, settlement did occur. Conroe has executed the documents. There was a provision in the documents that they had 10 days to execute. They did it in less than 10 days. And there's an article in the Courier this morning. I understand, I haven't seen it yet, but gives a kind of an executive summary of what was in the settlement. Conroe's surface water volume goes from 5.3 million gallons a day to 7 with a max of 10 million gallons a day. They pay what's in arrears on, they were short paying from 2017 coming forward. So that's roughly $18.8 million. In the settlement documents, the 18.8 million can either go towards debt defeasance or towards being put in the R&R fund for maintenance at the surface water plant.
Is that in What was the dollar value of that?
18.8 million,
18 million. It'll go R&R or,
debt defeasance. Debt defeasance,
oh, okay,
pay down debt.
pay down debt. Was that in the contract?
Yes.
They specified that, okay.
This was questioned at the last meeting. Conroe, when they were negotiating the GRP agreement back in 2010, 2012, they wanted 80 years on their contract. And during settlement, they wanted to reduce from 80 to 40, which matches all the other GRP contracts. So we were happy to do that. Trying to think what else is significant.
Forgiveness of penalties and fees on past due amounts,
Correct.
Out of interest.
which is substantial. That's it.
That's
substantial.
it's around 8 million.
So you forgave? Or
Yes.
for penalties and fees
Penalties, interest, and late charges.
and interest too?
And then they had to cover their own attorney costs like we had to cover ours.
Which in turn was a charge back to the MUDs.
No, sir.
No,
None of this was
we did
coming
not
back.
pay any of the legal expenses.
Say that again.
We MUDs did not pay any of the,
You paid as part of the rate, just like all the other participants.
wherever it was stuffed, or wherever it was called was irrelevant. It did come out of the.
It was in the rate.
So fast, yeah.
So in effect, we did pay for legal fees.
Yes.
We paid the SRA's legal fees.
That's right, that's correct. So we're getting.
As did
none of
the
that
other 79 participants.
back. I'm sorry.
Including Conroe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everybody paid legal fees. In the rate.
I don't know, I look at this a little differently, probably than some, but from a business perspective, it seems that Conroe, in dragging its heels, saved money. The SJRA has gained money, and the residents of the MUDs in the Woodlands paid money. That's how I'm viewing it.
All the participants paid money.
That's true, but we're not getting any back, but
Neither
they're
are
getting
they.
relief.
You're getting
You're
4
getting of the 18 million that was withheld, the 20% of the total.
So by their increase of surface water volume, there's a guarantee of 4 billion gallons of groundwater,
Future,
current
okay.
and going forward. There's a minimum, that's a take or pay. And then they're doing more surface water. So because they are doing more surface water, it brings our total cost down. And there will be roughly a 4-cent reduction on the groundwater and surface water fee.
Translate that if you could to me so I can understand it from a MUD perspective, a MUD 46 perspective. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to understand, because when I view it, we're taking money from different buckets, paying for all of the incremental costs over the 7 years. And what we settled for is we recouping none of the interest, none of the penalties, which regular clients pay. And it just, I have a problem running a business that way, that's all.
We're not a for-profit business.
Oh, I understand that. That's not my point. The point is that money's come out of the resident's pocket and it's not being recovered.
So let me try and put it this way. We got back what they owed. Only they earned interest on the money that they held. No
That's true.
question about that.
That's correct.
But we got back everything they should have paid from day one. When they started short paying.
Victory for SJRA. Agree with that.
And so we have the choice by the settlement agreement to either use that for paying down debt or putting it in the R&R fund for maintenance at the plant. Like you've heard Chris talk a little bit about, at some point, we've got to change out the membranes at the surface water plant. So that can help go to pay for that. The plate settlers, if we have to replace some of those, it can go towards that.
Why wouldn't we take that money and disperse it to the 10 MUDs based
Because
on,
that's not part of the settlement agreement. That was not even a consideration.
And was that a desire on the part of Conroe or the SJRA?
My understanding on Conroe. And leadership agreed with that.
Is it possible to talk about this during a private session later, or we shouldn't discuss it at all? Just go with whatever the agreement is.
It's
I
water,
don't think we have a say whether to accept it.
it's water under the bridge.
Fine, let's pass on it then.
That's not the agreement between GRP and Convo. That, the agreements between GRP and Convo, or SJRA GRP.
But it did impact
It did impact us, but
negatively.
we don't get to vote on accepting or rejecting
In
the.
that case,
We process our annual budgets based on everybody paid. We didn't have to do a cash call to anybody to cover expenses. Now, there were some lean years, no question.
Have you figured out how much is debt repayment, how much is R&R?
No, we have not.
You have not, okay. Because if you take debt repayment in a way, some of that will trickle back in pricing.
I was just kind of thinking about, because I think in our budget here, there's gonna be some gaps, but just high level. The surface water conversion fee bakes in 5 cent reduction
This year?
this year.
This budget year,
Okay,
yes,
And so you're saying 4, so.
on top of that.
Yeah, but just to kind of look at scale of magnitude, if projected actual is 3,804,000 for this district. Next year, if it's budgeted, assuming the usage is the same, then that's 115,000 in reduced cost to MUD 46 customers. This year, just on the 4 to 5 cents, not counting the debt service piece. Now, that's very, very rough, but in terms of what the customers actually could see in reduced expenses.
Okay.
And that's obviously perpetual.
And Convo, the ability to take the water is pretty immediate, right? They just turn the valve, pretty immediate. I mean, if you go through the GRP budget, the variable cost is about 17 cents, 17%. And so the fixed cost is, and I call semi-fixed, like Ed's salary, what I mean, is, when you start pumping more water through that, that brings that overhead cost down. And so we're
That's
gonna
why-
benefit.
By
Yeah.
their increasing surface
Right.
water usage.
And I
That's
think
why we.
The other issue we'll eventually have to get to is how do we balance summer with winter between all the customers? Because we, in the summer, we're doing 28 million. In the winter, we're doing 8 million gallons a day, something like that. I'm a little off,
There's about 9.
nine. So eventually, if we want to
Currently.
max out the plant, we need to, maybe dial back or dial up our wells in summer to allow, and take more winter water in order to get a level load of 28, 29 million gallons per day. And that way the plant's full and it pays for itself quicker. So it's been a difficult road, but I think it's a positive outcome. May not be exactly what we want, legal, but never is.
18 mil is no longer an escrow, just gone from anybody.
No, it's in their pocket.
Right.
Once
But since
once
27,
we receive it. it's
Once
in
we
our
receive it, right.
yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Any more questions about the Woodlands Division or the monthly SRA report? Okay, so 11's done. So let's go to 12. Discuss and act on water line renewal plan analysis completed by HCR engineers. You want to start off on that?
Yeah, we
Eric?
kept that on the agenda for everybody, just to give the opportunity to chat about it. To give an update, the trustees did vote unanimously to move forward with redesign of town center and acquisition easements for that project. And then that leaves 6 projects that were in the HDR report, as recommended, over the next 10 years or whatever. So I'm working with a number of directors right now behind the scenes on some remaining questions that they have. So we're going back and forth a little bit still with HDR. And then likely probably in the next probably 3 or 4 weeks, we'll sit down and kind of walk through each of some of the projects to see kind of what is involved in each project from a segment standpoint. And then we'll be able to better kind of give direction to SDRA for the 10-year project plan.
So I sent Eric and Ed a note asking for the, the slugs we took, the test slugs we took out, the DL number they came out of, and the lat long of those. I would, there's a number of us that are looking for that data so we can compare it to the break history.
Did you?
I sent it Friday.
Friday?
Did you?
That was sent 2 weeks ago to you in the meeting. when we were in
No,
the meeting.
well, I sent it again Friday. Maybe I'll check it, and I sent it out email to
You're
both.
referring to the lat longs for the break.
Lat longs for the
I have not
brakes?
Seen those.
Yeah, lat longs for the brakes and the DL line of the brakes. The test data. We'd like to basically look at the test data, in relation to, because there's more than one road in all these plans. There's 3, 4, 5 roads. So we'd like to see where those test slugs were taken. And I'll be honest with you, we're doing our own analysis, and we're kind of hung up, without that data, and you guys should have it.
I wanted to share just briefly I wanted to thank HDR and SJRA for being so forthcoming with the information. We had that meeting a couple of weeks ago, August 6th, where that answered a series of questions. My key takeaway from the last number of months has been that the key predictor to breakage data has to do with what is the breakage on the pipes themselves. So that was one of the key insights. And I turned my attention to looking at the Appendix H data set that HDR provided us so that we could filter by pipes with 0 breaks. And I think that it makes sense to prioritize the items, the pipes that have either breaks or score higher on the risk, where risk is defined by HDR in a standard way as a function of both consequence of failure and likelihood of failure. And when you go through those numbers, just to give you an idea, there's only 5 pipe segments that have risk scores greater than 27. And the total, this is out of the 10-year, those projects that are within the 10-year recommendation that HDR provided, recommended projects to be addressed, for a total cost of approximately $8.3 million, if you just filter by those projects with the risk scores of 27 or higher. Another data point would be that out of all of the pipe segments that are in the 10-year project plan, there are many of the pipe segments have 0 breaks on them. And so if you add up all of the ones that are part of the 10-year plan to just get a sense, order of magnitude idea of what's the budget if we were to replace those that have 0 breaks, that's on the order of over $60 million. So there's room to, my net recommendation would be that we prioritize those projects, or that we consider those projects to have the highest risk scores and address those first. And that's it.
Okay. So Eric, I just sent you that email from August the 15th again, looking for those two pieces of data. And I think we have a lot of data, but we would like to link the breaks to the.
Long data than we sent before.
That's a different set. This is, originally we had a table, I think it's 4.3 or 5.3, and that only had the breaks. It didn't identify the project it went to. We got the project it went to, but what we're missing is the DL line the slug was taken out of.
I did all the lat longs for every line segment to Eric to pass on.
Yeah, but
I think
the problem we have is we need to identify, those slugs. You gave us all the lat longs for all the DLs, but what we need is the DL for the slugs and the lat long for that DL. I mean, you understand?
We'll have to look to see if that data exists.
I would think since you plotted them at one time, in one of the documents you gave us that you'd have the lat long and the DL number.
Oh, they can inquire with HDR.
Yeah, our interest is really, you know, when you look at a project, there's 4 or 5 roads. We'd like to see where that slug was taken, what road. And so we need, and then take the results and then look at the breakage history versus the slug test, the slug sample to evaluate, you know, to interpret the report. So I think we have a lot of the data. that's
Well,
all
I would
floating
just,
around.
would you say that it was the lat long for both the slug and the brakes?
I think we have predominantly we have the lat longs for the brakes because they're in table H. You know, I mean, they're appendix
Yeah,
H.
I didn't see lat longs for the brakes themselves.
Have you asked them for what they needed for, because we're running up.
I'm fine moving forward.
Okay.
I was just seeking clarification
Yeah.
for
I,
what you were looking.
I thought let's put it this way. The table H has the lat long for the segment. Which, you know, sometimes a break occurs more than once in a table H, and they only identify the last break. You know what I mean? But you know, Steve Briggs has, you know, he's taken that and slung the Excel table around pretty good, and we have the data to break for every break that's occurred. And I think we have the ability to get the lat long. What we're missing is a lat long from the sample. Missing that. And the sooner the better. I really don't want to go into the next meeting and do another meeting and then we get the information right before it. We're just 5 or 6 of us that are, you know, going through the data. And I think that's one of the last data points we have, unless I'm mistaken, what's in appendix H. And
Let's talk offline and go back through it and see
Yeah.
exactly what you need and make sure we express that.
And anything else on HDR? And so what Eric said, well, just to clarify it, what was approved at the trustee meeting was kind of what we discussed at this last meeting, in which we approved the unfreezing the design effort. And the SGRA has money to fund that. It's less than 2 million, I think. And then what was also approved was the purchase of right of way, but the catch was the SGRA doesn't have any money for that. So there'll be a future item in which we'll have to discuss and solve that issue of funding. What has not been funded was the construction of the 14 or 15 million or whatever the number was to build the line.
Okay, so there was a statement of work that we received a copy of the Leo 3 contract that listed some of the projects to be considered under town center, the ones with the linear feet. I just wanted to draw attention to the importance of prioritization. Not many people can see this, so I can share this around later, but the map, there's an accompanying map which shows the proposed segments that correspond to town center. And so there's most of the pipe segments score very low or have 0 breaks in the pipes. So this is an example where there could be prioritization. So if you prioritize the pipe segments that actually have breaks, which HDR has said that is the best predictor for future breaks, you have lots of flexibility with scoping the size of the project down.
I mean, obviously the 2 more, you know, the two segments that score the highest are at Gogan's Mill and Woodlands Parkway. Are the 2 with the highest score. Then after that, they drop off. It's obvious that I realized you guys went on the teleconference we had, but I mean, basically, the privatization of town center was not because of risk of breakage. It was because of they had the project partially
Yeah,
done.
the top 5 segments by risk
Right.
scores do not include segments
So
from town
otherwise,
center.
the HDR would not have put that as the number 1 project.
Mhm.
He did make that statement in the teleconference.
Yeah.
Okay. Flip back. Any more HDR comments? Okay, so we'll close out 12. We'll go to 13. Discuss and act on Bear Branch Dam modification project, and spillway construction, reconstruction and dam safety assessment.
So, as a stakeholder, Mud, you know more than probably anybody as far as where we're at on the zone and the evaluation. If you recall at the end of that, Five Muds meeting, I'll call it, stakeholder meeting, on the 21st, there was a question about maybe adding in some participants.
Mhm.
And so this item's been on all of the agendas this week. And so in particular, the non-stakeholder meeting, MUDs there's 5 of them. Have 4 of them have contemplated this thus far. And in each of those meetings, each one has made a motion to at least proceed with looking at the numbers or expressing interest in getting involved. Some may not be capable of to the full extent of certain pro ratas or whatever, but at least express some interest in, there was no no's. And so it still may be up in the air as to how much a certain MUD can participate, but it looked promising to at least add a couple in. And then we've got one more after this meeting. That'll be the 5th, and we'll find out there.
Yeah.
No. I think positive discussions on all fronts.
So if you go to page 45 and you look at the table that Eric put together, you know, we're right now we're participating at option 1, which is 786,000. So our participation would actually increase if we, you know, if we accept this. So the question remains is everybody's discussing it, which could, there's no no's, but nobody's voted yet to accept it. Or they have,
Maybe one.
one did, yeah, one.
Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah.
1 for sure, I think.
So what we need to think about is, you know, if some say no, some say yes, you know what I mean, what that does to the final calculation.
For sure, and we wanted to get through this week to address it with all of the non-stakeholder group, to see what the interest was, and then we'll come back with redoing some numbers, recommendations on what the numbers might look like. This just kind of, the way that the current pro ratas are built is it's on connections of land mass that provides water to the watershed. If you then add in some individuals that have 0 water going to it, but want to downstream, right, then how do you prorate that? So the default, just to set some numbers up, was to convert that to just overall connections, which likely will probably not end up being how it works, because a couple of the districts may not be able to go that full, and then others may want to go more. So it kind of depends.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's a precedent for that.
So when we set up option 1, we originally set the funding of the dam up. Was that by SFDUs? Was that by the SFDUs that drained into Bear? That was
Drained in.
connections drained in.
Associated with the land mass that's draining too.
So an apartment building would have more than 2 per unit, right? Depending upon the math of the SFDU, typical classical math we use. I'm just kind of visualizing. So, okay, but it's basically driven by SFDUs, and option 2 is also driven by SFDUs, but it includes
All of them.
Includes everybody in MUD 46.
And the big change is that it includes our SFDUEs that are not draining into it.
That's right.
That's why it goes from 2,291 SFDUEs to 8,396. Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can look at the map Eric's laid out. You can see who wins and loses. So, any thoughts on that?
We have other agreements where all 10 MUDs do participate, correct?
We do. I mean, basically, do we do a project?
Yeah.
Right. We all participate, basically evenly as we renew the pipeline, even though it doesn't like town center. We don't have any areas in town center, but we're going to help fund that, and we're going to all
We need to understand what our policy is and agree to especially with what Eric said, if there are some MUDs that are in a financial situation that they can't participate without an undue hardship to the residents, that's not fair. So how do we deal with that in a way that one MUD's not taking advantage over another? We need to defend it to our constituents. So what would you think would be a fair way?
I'm kind of, to be honest with you, I'm kind of, listening to, listening to what the discussion is in the other MUDs. I mean, we're obviously putting 90,000 more in, and I'm curious to see what the discussion is from the other MUDs. And I'm kind of guessing which ones you may be referring to that may have
Crazy.
not have the MUDs on hand to fund additional cost.
Is there any way to access any of the money that was received from Conroe?
And, Fred has never stops asking.
Take some money from the 18 million. No, sir. Dedicated solely to the
A
GRP.
lockbox, Fred.
All right, just ask the question.
Makes Fort Knox look easy.
Fair enough.
And Ed, I'll just mention this, so, because Fred's always interested in this. It's been a very wet year
Yes, sir.
so far, so, we may not have the gift at the end of the year in terms of, fresh water refund.
I think the report shows the month of July was kind of dry.
Yeah. It started raining again now. Yeah. So, I don't, do we want to make an expression of what we would like to do? Or you want to hold off and hear Eric, give us a summary?
Yeah, we need to have Eric
Okay.
give us a
I
recommendation.
kind of agree with that.
And I'll just share my bias is that unless it's broke, what is there to fix, so to speak? It's like the status quo is that it was pro rata allocated this way in the past. And so I'd want to hear a positive case for changing that. If it worked in the past.
So, this another, I talked to Eric about this offline. After this came up, I Googled around, and I found out the Woodlands Development Corporation owns the Lake Woodlands Dam. So, they own that now. I wanted to make sure that wouldn't be gifted to someone.
Mhm.
And that we then take care of common good
Mhm.
on the gifting of that item, because there's some things that have been gifted in the past,
Mhm.
like to the township right away drainage. What I mean? I think some of the Panther, yeah, so I think that's another thought. But Eric kind of said, highly unlikely.
But we can refuse a gift.
Well, they could give it to, no, I guess you go back to the common good discussion, right? Common good, so they could gift it to another MUD who accepts it. And then I went, in Google, Googling around, on AI, look at that, I'm using AI, it said they expect a major repair in 2029. And I don't have anything other than the AI statement, so I think we need to define, future state. That, we wouldn't pick up additional responsibility from a MUD accepting, something from the development corporation later on in life,
Unless they paid for it.
unless they pay for it, but maybe not a shared expense.
Correct.
Yeah, MUD can't unilaterally obligate another MUD to a cost contribution, so
Right.
there would have to be an interlocal agreement.
Yeah.
They pull out their pockets saying, don't have any money.
Still, it's a policy decision by this
By each
board
MUD, yeah.
as to whether or not you assist in that situation.
Right. Okay, good.
So what kind of, I think you can heard some comments. I think we need to hear
Yeah,
your,
when we left that meeting, it was, we're short 4.8 and
Yeah, I
five
agree.
guys need to split it.
yeah, I agree.
Now we're at the point of, we got some new people at the table that are willing to throw some money. in.
Yes,
So
I agree.
The
I
good
mean,
news is,
I suggested,
regardless of the shares is
Yep.
the overall.
Yep. yeah, it makes it hard when you put the numbers down.
Sure.
That's what's by the change of discussion. Okay, any more comments on Bear Branch? Okay, here we go. Panther Creek, Bear Branch, Panther Creek, Research Forest drainage improvement. Is that a holder or are you ready to
I have some movement,
have?
positive,
Has Santa Claus come?
possibly.
Possibly.
Yes, so it was brought to my attention an opportunity at a different funding program and source. That brought to my attention, I felt like it had some potential, so I pursued it. And we had a meeting with the Corps of Engineers a couple weeks ago. Corps of Engineers has some funding programs in place, of which may be able to fit with this, that doesn't have a cap like the $5 million that we were going for the dam project. We had a meeting with them and learned more about those opportunities. And just to give you a brief summary of what that would look like is we need to file an application for them to consider our project. And then they go in, review that application, and on the merits of what we put in the application, basically, and we've already summarized to them what we're doing, what we've done, the modeling, the benefits, all that stuff. We've had that in that meeting. We already did that. But the application will formalize at least our interest to go to the next step. They would look at that. If they deem on that step of reviewing the app that this might have a possibility, then they would request from the Fed $10,000 to do an official due diligence. They would do a due diligence. It would take about 90 days once we get to that point. That still may be a minute to get there, but and then after the end of their due diligence period, and they would do cost benefit and a bunch of other things in addition to what's already been done by LJA. But they would do that when they complete that, if they believe that this would be a viable project to partner on with the municipalities, then they would recommend to go into one of their funding programs where we could get the entire shortage potentially of the 10 million that we're short. And so I feel like that's a real opportunity. The risk is time.
You've done all the work.
Right. The majority of the modeling, all that stuff, right. So the worst they could do is say no. If they say yes, there is a kind of some two caveats or things that we have to consider, compromise, if you will, is there is a 60% match, the 11.3 million that we already have in play. You do the math on 20 million, that's about 58%. So we're pretty much there on the match. And then the other caveat is that if we do go down that road, then the Corps takes over the project and they manage the project.
They absorb.
They manage the project. Right. So that's different than when we get funds from Crenshaw and some of the other programs. We still control the project. We just utilize the funds. In this case, they would take over the project, which, for $10 million,
Yes, yeah.
maybe it's, ultimately there's more red tape and, maybe takes a little longer than, what we're used to. But if we're eligible for that, I'd say it's worthwhile. So.
And they would eat the risk of the cost overruns if they go long in that scenario.
I don't know the specific of that.
No, they won't do cost overruns.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's just a risk to consider then.
You anything, say like the estimate was, call it $20 million and it came in at 22, the local share would have to be increased.
Share would be increased, not so you absorb the 60%, the additional
Pro rata.
pro rata share.
The core amount, if their pro rata share is 60%, it stays at 60 from the original estimate, and then you increase your local
You
share.
keep your low match, okay. Do you ever get on the Commissioner Wheeler's calendar?
No, because this was coming up and I felt like this was maybe instead of piecemealing.
Yeah.
5 or 6 different participants panhandling with them. When this came about, I thought this may be a better option, at least at the moment. We may get there, but I feel like this is something to pursue, in my opinion. So I'm recommending that we, and the application is due at the end of the month. So Ed and I have talked about moving that along. Oh, also they did ask that we are required to provide a letter of support from the congressman. And I asked, what about local leadership, county, state level letters of support? And they said, sure, that would help. They in order to say this is a viable project to partner with, they want to know that it's supported by the community. So in my mind, you know, township, commissioner, possible local reps, et cetera, et cetera.
County judge, he lives in Woodlands.
Absolutely. MUD presidents, et cetera. I mean, the more letters of support that we can dump in there, I would think can only help. So I think that we gotta put down that road. That's the update.
Any more discussion?
Thanks.
Let's go to item 15. Consider an act on payment application number 1 for the retail wastewater collection system rehabilitation year 2.
Yeah, so that's the sanitary sewer rehab. It started about 2 months ago. This is the first pay application. We actually don't have any work that was done specifically in 46, so there's no action to take. The work was done in month 6 and month 60 in this first month. So you will have work in the future, but none yet, so nothing to report.
Okay. Steve Attorney's appointment.
I'll go ahead and defer on attorney's report today. If we have a couple of minutes, we're running pretty short. We've got 13 minutes left. We can go to a brief closed session. If we don't have enough time, we can pick it up next month. It's not time sensitive. And we do need to adopt the resolution on item 17. We already talked about the fact that the district is still developed, but we do need to adopt the resolution declaring that for 2025, the district is a developed district again.
Okay. We do that in private sector.
Yes.
We can do it right now. Fred, you want to make that resolution?
I'll make that resolution.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor of adopting a developed status, say aye. Aye.
I can go real quick. Just wanted to remind you of the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District meetings, GMA 14 on the September 17th. And then the MUD information meeting they're hosting on the 18th, both at Lone Star. The SWDUE audit we're still doing that, and that still got a month or two until we're finished with that. The township has put an agenda item on their meeting to talk about mobility related to the catastrophic flooding situations, I think as a response to the Kerrville flooding. And so they've asked me to come speak specifically on the project we just talked about and what that would do to help mobility. So I plan to talk about that. Probably I'll talk about the dam a little bit as well.
Take your hat with you.
Take what?
Take your hat with you.
I've been warned not to. Or just don't turn it upside down. And I think that's it.
We kind of talked about some of the trustee stuff already. So, did you say you want a closed session?
We got time.
Okay.
Looks like we have a couple of minutes. So yeah, let's go ahead.
Wait, quick.
Anything else? Have motion to close this session?
Motion to close the session.
All those in favor, say aye.